morning, folks, and welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So last week we finished up the rear brakes on Little John. Yeah. So we got the rear brakes finished up. Actually, we just finished it up on the passenger side. I actually held off and didn't do the driver's side until yesterday. So driver's side's done. Haven't put the wheels and stuff on there yet. Still need to bleed the brakes. It'd just be easier to access it without the wheel. Didn't think about that when I put the wheels on the passenger side, but I did bottle bleed them a little bit yesterday. Basically took just a rubber hose down into an old water bottle with some brake fluid in it, and then just pump the brakes slowly, trying to work the air out. That way the hose is in the brake fluid in the bottle, so as it draws back in, it's not pulling air, it's pulling liquid. So I did that, and it seemed to firm up pretty good. Didn't look like I was getting any more bubbles, but I still would like to do it the standard way of somebody pumping the brakes, cracking the bleeder, and doing it the regular old-fashioned way. So there's only a few things left to take care of to get this truck back on the ground, and that's going to be the exhaust. Somebody had cut just behind the collector on the header. I mean, maybe a couple 3 inches behind the collector on the header, and it's all welded solid except for where it's cut. So somebody cut it there, so I got to clean those up. And then I went and I picked up, unfortunately, I had to go to 2 different parts houses. One here in town only had one of these, a little 2.5 inch coupler. And I had to pick up a second one from another parts house. About a half-hour drive, so about an hour worth of driving just to pick up a 2.5 inch coupler. And also needed one of the exhaust clamps. My local parts house had this one, and I had to pick up this one from, basically I had to drive an hour to go pick up 2 parts that it just, it's infurigating. And I dug around last night a little bit, and I was able to find these 2 clamps, which were leftovers from another project. I don't even know what from. I just know I had them. So we've got that to do. Got to get that. I got to put that heat shield back on the little solenoid valve thing, the tank selector valve. Yeah, that's the name. I've also got to top off the rear end on gear oil. So I picked up a jug of gear oil to finish topping that guy off. And then we've got to do the rear trans mount, and picked up some blue Loctite for the other bolts on the front of the trans, so we don't have to worry about them guys walking their way out. Once all that's done, and I put wheels on the back driver's side, I can put this thing on the ground, and then we can get under the hood and do stuff. So let's get to it. Alrighty, comfortably under the truck. So it's quite a bit chilly outside. It's in the 20s for the high today, and we got this huge cold front coming through. It's supposed to be really cold over the next few days, and laying on this concrete is very chilly. So I'm chilling out on my little creeper, which I generally don't do because there's just not enough room for me to get on my side, and a lot of stuff I like to do on my side. So all right, here we go. Here's my exhaust on the passenger side, so you can kind of see they just cut it, and it's just got some burrs on it, so the coupler won't slide back on there real easy. So I'm just going to file these burrs off on the sides, all the way around the edges, just clean that up a little bit. But if I can get my hands in the right spot, but you can see we got a nice little gap there that'll get taken up comfortably by the coupler. So yeah, that's all I'm going to do here. Just file it down, slide the coupler on there, and crank the bolts down on the clamps. That's it. Pretty simple on this side. The other side, you can kind of see they cut it at a pretty good angle, and that's going to need to be cleaned up so it'll sit in the coupler right. So, and then there's the exhaust over there. But, yeah, those are going to have to be, you know, cleaned up a little bit. So I'm going to have to put the saw on that and just try to square them edges up a little bit. But, yeah, that's all I'm going to do here. And I guess once I get this side done, we'll move on to something else before I go getting the saw out. So I have to cut that side. So, all right, let's get to it. All right, so smoothed out the edges. No longer any burrs on here that are keeping this from sliding on. So I was able to slide the collar on there pretty easy. And then I knocked it onto here, but apparently it doesn't want to come back off of here. I do not have any rear movement on this guy. And obviously I've got to be able to move it back this much in order to come back and then slide it back over here. So following the exhaust down, this is my only exhaust hanger. And it can slide a little bit, but that ain't near enough. I mean, it's only got another, I don't know, quarter inch or so it can move right here. So I guess my next move is going to be to undo these bolts. There's a couple bolts up here that hold this bracket. So I can undo those and drop the whole exhaust out of the way, which I guess I probably ought to get a jack stand or something in here just to hold this up. Because trying to swing the exhaust and this big old muffler around, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I guess I'll get a jack stand in here and support this guy up, so that way I'm not having to fight all this weight back here. But I'll do that and then drop this hanger down. Hopefully those bolts come out. Yeah, we'll drop this hanger down, and then that should allow me to pull the whole thing back, put it where it needs to go, slide it forward, and then come back over here and bolt this guy back up. So, all right, that's the plan. We'll see how well it works. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was a pain in the butt, but it worked. So, just as a note, if you're putting together your own exhaust, don't weld the whole damn thing up. At least leave some sort of flange there, so that way, you know, if you have to do some sort of servicing of something and the exhaust is in the way, you can at least take it apart. You know, typically these headers come with flanges on them. Why is that not going on there? We'll just do this side just to... Yeah, typically headers come with flanges on them. I'm not sure they're thinking in removing the flanges on this side. That thread's boogered up. There we go. But, you know, they took the flange off. So that right there kind of kills everything. So that's probably why they had to cut the exhaust. My guess is when they were switching the motor out. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is they cut the exhaust when they were doing the motor. So now I know these are not the best exhaust clamps out there on the market, but they are the cheapest. So I'm just using these for now. You know, like I said, I don't know what the future holds for this truck.
You know, am I keeping it? Am I selling it? I don't know. But these clamps will at least work to push all the exhaust back so it's not just open headers. I'm not anticipating these being a nice perfect seal because they won't be. They will end up making some racket. I'm sure there'll be some spitting out of them. But one thing when you're doing these, don't put your flange, you know, your clamp flanges pointed down, because anytime you slide in and out from underneath this thing, you're going to grab them. They're going to hook your shoulder. They're going to grab your shirt. It's going to do something, and it is infuriating. So I always turn mine to the side. That way they're not catching anything. You know, and if you're doing work under here and they're in the way, you can always just loosen them up and move them. Now, you don't want to get too crazy on the tight, because otherwise you're going to dent everything, and then if you do have to take it apart, it's just going to be even that much more of a nightmare, because you're going to have a big, you know, bow to deal with. But you do want them on there snug. All right, this exhaust side is done. Now the fun thing is there very well could be mouse houses in the exhaust. I don't know. Probably should have hooked the air hose up and blown through here. Although with this being 2.5-inch exhaust, and you know, even throwing my air compressor through it, it's probably not enough to push everything out just for the, you know, sheer volume. But there could be some mouse houses back there. They'll probably blow out. If there are mouses in there, they'll go peacefully in their sleep. Well, maybe not peacefully, but they'll definitely go in their sleep. So carbon monoxide, it's a hell of a thing. All right, I guess since I'm under here and I've got a bunch of other tools sitting right here, I can go ahead and get these bolts that bolt the trans to the bell housing. I can get those pulled back out, a little Loctite on them, run them back in real fast. Not going to film that. That's just, you know, pulling a bolt out, smearing some stuff on it, running it back in. So I'm going to do that since I'm here. And I guess I'll catch back up with you over here on the passenger side. Or maybe this rear trans mount. I don't know yet. We'll see which one I hit first. We got to replace this rear trans mount. Looks like this is an 11/16 bolt right here. So I'm going to run that out. And then I've been trying to find the correct wrench for the bolts up here, and 9/16 is too small, 5/8 is too big. Probably a damn metric. Why? I don't have any metrics under here with me. So let me go grab, I'm thinking a 14, maybe a 15. So let me go grab a friggin' metric wrench and see if we can't get that broke loose. And then I drug my floor jack over, stuck that on there so that way I can jack this thing up. So we got enough room to get, you know, to get this mount out. And then here's the new one. So this guy's compressed down quite a bit over the years. And yeah, we'll get this sorted out pretty quick. So let me go get some wrenches, and then I'll go ahead and jack this guy up so that way we've got a little tension on it. Actually, we can go ahead and jack it all the way up and out of the mount here so that way I can get them swapped out. So let me do that, and then I'll be back. Well, I definitely jacked it up high enough. Let's see, 15 mil? 15 millimeter. All right. Now, let's clean some of this crap off of here. I'm going to guess that the rear seal on this transmission's leaking, because it's exactly what it looks like it's coming out of.
is the rear seal. Yeah, I can see it's wet back there. So that'll be something we'll have to take care of another day. All right, let's make sure those are going to go where they need to go. So there is an offset. That's not right. So it's going to have to go this way. Now to see if we can't get this thing to drop where we want it. Pretty close. Now it just needs to come my way a little bit. There we go. Got her. All right, now tighten up the last bolts. All right, then got this rear trans cross member mount. Got this guy replaced, ready to go. Got a fresh one in there. I did notice that the rear seal on the transmission is leaking. It's actually sitting there. I can see a glistening of gear oil somewhere back in there. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but I'm not too worried about that right now. In order to do that, I got to disconnect the drive shaft and do a bunch of stuff that, yeah, frankly, I'm not that worried about right now. So, so I'm not going to worry about that. I still got to get the driver's side exhaust done. Pretty much the same thing as the passenger side. Pretty much just, going to copy this with the added bonus of having to cut those hard angles off of it and just kind of flush the cuts up a little bit. May not be as involved on the driver's side as it was the passengers, since I am going to be cutting a bigger gap into that. And I may not have to take the passenger or the driver's side down all the way like I did on the passengers. Might have to, might not. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll cross that bridge. We'll burn that bridge when we come to it. So, so yeah, all I gotta do is just kind of clean up those ends and pretty much doing this exact same thing right there. And then doing the driver's side transmission to bell housing bolts. Got to pull those back out, put a little Loctite on those, and we'll be solid from that point. So I guess I'm going to get on that, get that knocked out, and then really the only thing left to do underneath the truck is coming back here to the rear end and topping off the gear oil in this guy. And I got to find the fill plug, which usually they're somewhere on the top on this side, the passenger side of it. Typically. Don't know. I haven't really looked at that one. We'll find out. So I've got that to do, this to do up here, and then we'll slide out from underneath the truck, put some tires on the driver's side, and put her on the ground. So, all right, let me get this done, and I'll be right back.
so I was wrong on the 14 bolt. It's actually back here on this cover. I think the Dana 70, it was on the side up front, if I remember correctly. So basically all we want to do here is open up this drain plug and top it off until it starts pouring out, which in hindsight, I probably should have grabbed something to catch it with. Now, if this is in a different location and it's hard to get to with your, you don't have enough room to really move this guy around to fill up the holes, just get you a piece of hose, cut your nub, your nub down there, and then just run your hose over the end, and then you can fill it up remotely. That's something I've done in the past that works out very well. But since we can get such great access, we'll just do this right here. And here it comes. That did not take much at all. All right. Okie doke. All right, girls, topped off. All right, well, Little John is now back on the ground. So all 6 tires on the ground. Yeah, it looks a little goofy with these shorter tires on it. So, especially in the back, because there's so much fender clearance. I have to see what I can do about that. But yeah, it's all back on the ground, so I'm pretty well wrapped up underneath the truck. I mean, I still got to do like an oil change. I still got to wrestle with this fuel pump. Yeah, there's a couple things I'm gonna have to get under the truck, but as far as like actual work under the truck, we're good for now. I still haven't made a decision on whether or not I'm going to get a replacement tank for the driver's side. Still thinking on that one. Looking at it now, sitting on the ground, I may divert those funds to a lowering kit. This thing needs to go down big time. I mean, it looks good, but man, just think about that fender sitting about right there. Good 3 inches, 4 inches lower up front, and quite a bit more out back. So I don't know. I like I said before, I don't think I want to take this one as low as I did Big John. Big John, I did 3-inch knuckles, 3-inch springs, and an axle flip out back with a C-notch. And that equals up to around 6 inches up front and about 8 to 10 out back. So it's a pretty significant drop in the rear. I don't know if I want to go that low with this one, but a 3-inch up front, I could do 3 up front with a spindle or cutting a coil spring, and then I could do there's a hanger kit for the back that takes the front spring hanger, which y'all probably can't hardly see it, but it's right over there, and basically moves it up on the frame quite a bit, and so that gives you about 4 inches, 5 inches in the rear. I could also take a couple leaves out of the pack. That helps to lower it as well. So I don't know, but looking at it, man, this thing would look really killer sitting on the ground. So I'm gonna think on that and see if I can't figure out a budget to do that.
So anyways, all right, so she's back on the ground, and we're ready to get started on some other fun stuff. So I think first and foremost, I need to find my other carburetor. As I was looking, the one that I thought was the one I needed that's sitting on the big block, that's actually a 750. I think it's a 750. It's an Edelbrock 750. I don't think that's the one I want to run on here. A 600 should do just fine for a small block. Now, if it was running some crazy heads or something like that, then yeah, maybe. But I think I've got one hidden away. I'm pretty sure a buddy of mine gave me one, and I'm not 100% sure where I put it. So let me dig and see if I can find that guy, because I'm definitely going to have to rebuild it. Worst case, I can rebuild this one. Yeah, let me dig around, see what I can't find, and we'll catch back up here in just a few minutes. So I did find the carburetor. We have us a little Edelbrock 1406. That is a 600 CFM with a vacuum secondary and a electrical electric choke. So this guy down here is a 600 CFM with a manual choke, and of course it's missing the pieces and parts, and it definitely needs a rebuild. This guy could definitely stand a rebuild. It probably would still work as is. Don't know about the accelerator pump on this guy. Looking at the way the dirt and everything's kind of gathered around it, I'm guessing it's leaking. So, you know, that'll definitely get handled in a rebuild. Yeah, rebuilding these guys, super easy. I know I've covered it before. I know for sure whenever I was doing Jeremy's truck a couple years ago, I didn't get into into the weeds on it. Just kind of did a time lapse of tearing it down, putting it all back together, cleaning it up in the middle. That's pretty much the name of the game on these guys. So if you're, concerned or worried about working on carburetors, they're not that hard. People make them out to be a lot harder than they are. Pretty much it's tear it down like Edelbrock. You've got these screws up here, these little torque screws all the way around the top. Pull the top off. If it's an older Edelbrock, it might have flathead screws up here, but pull the top off, pull all the pieces and parts out, cleaning everything up as you go. They're not that difficult. Pretty much you just kind of take it apart, clean it up, and put it all back together. People worry about setting the floats and doing all that. That's not really, really difficult. Pretty much every rebuild kit I've had has a little measuring stick included with it to tell you how to set the floats to the correct level. And then, of course, if you mess it up, you can always fix it. You just take the lid of the carb off and fix it. So it's not real difficult. So I'm going to get this guy rebuilt. And it functions just fine. The butterfly's open and everything. Choke's not stuck. Everything moves like it should. So it ought to be just fine with a good little rebuild to it. Problem that I have though is I need my table, and the rule of the shop is if it's got a flat surface, it turns into a storage facility. That does tend to happen. Kind of flat there, definitely flat there, flat there. Yeah, I may have a problem. Flat surface. I'll deal with this later, and later never comes. So I've got to clean this thing up so that way I've actually got a place to work on the carburetor to get it all rebuilt. So I got to get that done, and then I'll go ahead and rebuild this carburetor. Not going to worry about filming it. Like I said, I covered it once before. There's other folks out there. Junkyard Digs has an excellent video on carb rebuilding. Fantastic video on it. So I'd suggest going and checking that out. If I can find it, I'll put a link. So I'll worry about that next week. And then we'll also get down here and replace this fuel pump and get all the plumbing set up for the fuel to the carburetor, to the rebuilt carb. And then after that, we'll deal with plugs and wires and cap and rotor, and make sure that we get kind of the tune-up thing taken care of. And then we should be able to fire this guy up, and it should run pretty good off of the passenger tank, since we don't have a driver's tank. And then once it's actually running and staying running relatively easy, then I can get in here and I can troubleshoot what's going on with either the pump or the hydro boost unit, which is right here behind the master cylinder for the brakes. So yeah, moving pretty good with Big John. Should have it on the road, hopefully here for long. Just one step at a time. do what we can when we can. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this video up for the week. You know, I do appreciate y'all guys watching. If you like the video, be sure and hit the like button. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed, why not? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And let's see, if y'all guys want to check me out on social media, my information's down below. And any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, just drop it down below. I read all of them, and I usually respond fairly quick. So I do appreciate it, guys and gals. And we'll see y'all guys next week. And just remember, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough. And we'll see y'all later.